In this video, I will explain how to calculate the poverty gap index. So let's start with a quick definition. The poverty gap index is a measure used to assess both the prevalence, so how many people are poor, and depth, so how far below the poverty line they fall, of poverty in a population. Now here's the formula we can use to calculate the poverty gap index. We do 1 divided by n, where n is the total population, and then we multiply that by the summation of j equals 1 to q, where q is the total population living below the poverty line, and we're taking the sum of these values, z minus y sub j divided by z, where z is the poverty line, and y sub j is the income of individual j living below the poverty line. So let's take a look at a simple example of how to actually calculate the poverty gap index. Suppose a society has 5 individuals with the following incomes: 450, 500, 520, 610, and 680. Assume the poverty line is 515. Calculate the poverty gap index. So in this simple example, we have a society where there are only 5 individuals. So n, in this case, the population is 5. So let's write that down. N is equal to 5. So the poverty gap index, we can abbreviate that as PGI. Here's how we calculate it. 1 divided by n, so n is 5, and then we're multiplying that by the summation of j equals 1 to q, where q is the total population living below the poverty line. So in this example, the poverty line is 515. So we can see that there are 2 individuals that have an income below 515. So this individual with an income of 450 and this individual with an income of 500. So these are the only 2 individuals that we're actually going to use when we're doing our summation. So here's how we calculate it. For each individual, we're calculating this value. So let's start with this first individual right here. We have a z minus y sub j. So z is the poverty line. So let's say for this first individual, we have 515 minus y sub j is the income of individual j. So we'll say 515 minus 450. And then again, we're dividing that by z, the poverty line, which is 515. So that's the first individual, and then we do the same calculation for the second individual. So this individual has an income of 500. So for z minus y sub j, we'll do 515 minus 500. And then again, we divide by the poverty line of 515. So this is going to be the formula that we use to calculate the poverty gap index. If we simplify a little bit, we get 1/5 times, if you punch this quantity into a calculator, that comes out to about 0.0291. And this quantity, that comes out to about 0.1262. So if we simplify a little more, we get 1/5 times, and the parentheses, if you punch that into a calculator, that comes out to about 0.1553. And 1/5 times 0.1553, that comes out to about 0.03106. So this is our poverty gap index, or if we wanted to express it as a percentage, we could move the decimal place twice to the right. So that's the same as 3.106%. So for this particular society with only 5 individuals, their poverty gap index is 3.106%.